This episode is about me asking one question to my client and how I saved her over $200,000 in taxes. You know, a client of mine came down to see me, and she moved down from Connecticut, and she went to see a big CPA firm in Boca Raton, and they told her that she owes about $200,000 in taxes. She just says, wow, that's a lot of money. So she knew a friend that lived in South Florida, and he happened to be my client. And he called me up, he says, would you mind reviewing this lady's tax return and see if it's done correctly? So she came to see me, I looked at the tax return, everything was prepared very well and accurately, but I started asking her questions. I said, what happened here? When did you sell this building? She said, we sold it in March of last year. I said, okay, great. She says, well, when my husband passed away. I said, what do you mean your husband passed away? She says, when my husband passed away, I said, did he own the property? She says, yeah, he owned it 100%, and he sold it in March. He passed away in January. I said, you're in luck, you don't owe any taxes. She says, what do you mean you don't owe any taxes? I says, when a person passes away, assets like real estate or stocks and bonds get the value at the date of death. They become the new basis. So the cost of the property was essentially the same as the selling price of the property. You get the step up in basis, what they call it in our industry. So essentially you owe no taxes. So what the accountant did before, he never asked these questions. So even though it cost her virtually nothing and she made $1 million profit, which was bought 20, 30 years ago, he never asked the question as to how or when or what happened. And I think those are key questions you need to ask the client. She's obviously a client for life, and I get Christmas cards, and my kids still get their birthday cards, and even though they're grown, from her. Most accountants basically look at the numbers and they plug in the numbers. I mean, many of them are good, but a lot of them don't ask questions and dig deeper where you can find solutions and find ways how you can minimize their taxes. I always ask questions. I've got a checklist of stuff to ask clients, whether they're in business or individuals, and I go through a whole bunch of questions and see how I can, if they fall into a certain category, and how I can save them taxes. So the key is to plan during the year, throughout the year. Take advantage of the tax code, so it is written there for you to take advantage of. There's nothing wrong with that. You just got to plan properly. So when you plan properly, you want to make sure that you put more money in your pocket instead of someone else's pocket. If you like this episode and you want to find out more about how you can save money on taxes, call this number below.